Navigating conflict. That's an interesting one. I think the first thing to say is that change, transformation, evolution is always requires a degree of conflict, because the change means that we need to change the shape of something. That an assumption we had is no longer suitable. We need to adapt to the current market situation. Yet there's a part of ourselves, and each one of us has this, that is somewhat conservative, somewhat bought into and making assumptions about what already is, and that if we are overly attached to this rather conservative, separate aspect of ourselves, we react emotionally to suggestions about change. We interpret them as criticism of us or our function or the way we're doing our work, and we act emotionally, sometimes even irrationally. Even worse, if it's the boss that's reacting like this, then pretty soon everybody in the team learns how to placate the boss by not saying anything or doing anything that is going to evoke these rather separate, condemnatory, judgmental responses. I remember one of my teachers in the States, she used to say, whenever you point the finger at something, you've got three fingers pointing back at yourself. So I think as we go into tense, difficult situations, one has to be aware of the three fingers that are pointing back to ourselves. But in order to really navigate conflict in organisations, I think there are two completely interwoven dimensions. The first is, how do you handle this dynamic in teams, particularly in senior teams, between peers? Because innovation and creativity is at its most profound, not within a part of the business, but across the whole of the business. So the relationships between senior leaders is utterly critical. And to maximise this, you have to create the right context. And again, here you utilise your purpose and your values. Your purpose, everybody, particularly the senior leaders, understand what it is they're trying to do and commit to that. And the values, they commit to a way of doing that. But the rubber hits the road in critical decision-making meetings when these values are called into question. So when you're discussing a critical decision, how do these values manifest? So if the value is, for example, openness, and we all subscribe to openness, I think, but when somebody says something you disagree with, are you really listening? Are you inquiring into what the assumptions are underlying what that person is saying? Or are you judging them, saying, well, they're just trying to get the most for their function, and I don't particularly agree with him, and I don't like her anyway? You know, in which case the fingers are pointing back at you. So how do your values manifest both positively in critical meetings and negatively? And moreover, what do you do when they are manifesting it negatively? How do you flag it up? So, for example, I know one group of people that has a meditation bell, and just if they feel the ego is dominating the meeting, they bang the bell and everybody stops until the chimes of the bell have stopped. But I want to bring forward another point. So one is, how do you create the context in your team? But the second, any team is made up of the interpersonal dynamics and the relationships between the people in that team. So everybody in the team has a responsibility to make those relationships as good and functional and effective as possible. So a great process in order to help this is called calling counsel. So if you have a disagreement, or if you have somebody with whom you're not getting on as well as you would like, you invite them to a council whereby you discuss a specific issue that might be getting in the way. But you don't discuss it, you both have a monologue, and each person answers three questions. What happened? How did I feel about it? What have I learned about myself? And each person takes it in turn to answer these questions. But the magic bit, and if there's only one thing I'd invite you to take away from this, is this would be it. The magic bit is after somebody's spoken in a conflict situation, you really listen to them, and before saying what you want to say, you feed back to them what they have said so that they feel heard. This, I think, more than anything, is the key to creative relationships. So make sure you really listen in times of pressure and you share back with the other person so that they know that they have been heard.